Hey guys, it's Sarah, and you're watching To the Wheel and Beyond. To mix your glaze, you're going to want to use a stir stick. You're going to be mixing all of the glaze that's settled to the bottom up into the other part so that you can homogenize the mixture. And usually, with thicker glazes, it takes a little bit longer. This is a Mark's Timothy, so it's definitely thicker and settles a little bit more, but you just need to stir it a little bit longer. I usually stir one way and then I stir the opposite way after a little while just to make sure it all gets mixed together really well. And then to test to see if it's all mixed together nicely, you can lift your stick out and see, and there you can see that it's still watery to there and it's really goopy down here. So I'm going to keep mixing for a while. Okay, so now that we've got it nice and mixed, I'm just going to scrape the sides off here. Now I've gone ahead and wiped off my bisque so that I can get all the dust particles off of it so that the glaze will stick better. And then you can either pour glaze on the inside and then pour it out and then dip the bottom, or dip the outside rather, or you can just dip the entire piece and then fill in your holes, which is what I prefer to do. So I'm just going to, I have a sponge ready and I'm just going to go ahead and dip it in. Pour it right out, and you notice I didn't hold it in there too long because if this is a thicker glaze, if you hold it in too long, it's going to create a really, really thick glaze and it could run onto the shelves and you don't really want that. So I'm just kind of letting it dry. It is thicker, so it takes a little bit longer to dry. And then I'm just going to dunk your finger in and quickly fill in the holes. You can also use tongs if you have them available to you, and that definitely makes the job easier. Once your piece is dry, you can go ahead and flip it over, and I usually hold it on the inside and outside, and then you're going to wipe off the bottom where it's going to be touching the shelf. So you have to do this so that the glaze doesn't seal itself to the shelf. The rule of thumb that I follow is that you want to go about a 1/4 of an inch or 1/16 of an inch above where it sits above the table. So you can set it down on the table and see you want to go up about 1/4 of an inch. Especially for thicker glazes, I definitely want to go a 1/4 of an inch. And you got to remember to do it on the inside as well because that's also close to the shelf. I prefer to wipe it off, but sometimes I'll use a trimming tool and scrape off the line, and it can give it a cleaner definition. But for right now, I think I'd rather just use a sponge. So now I've just gotten a smaller piece of sponge, that way I can get a more cleaner definition than using a big sponge. And it's up to you what you want your piece to look like. I like it to look a little bit more refined. I will say I do like dunking it the way that I do, with either tongs or using my hands. That way I can keep the glaze on the bottom underneath on the foot there. I think that's a really nice visual touch, to be able to flip it over and see that it's been thought of. So now I've gone ahead and wiped off the entire foot around it, and I've also wiped off the inside a 1/4 of an inch. On the inside though, I did go up just a 1/4 of an inch so that the inside foot area here stays glazed. To glaze the inside of a pot, you can use a plastic cup for pouring it into your piece. Here, Ian rotates his bowl while the glaze is inside to make sure that he's covering the entire surface. Next, he wipes away any glaze that dripped on the outside to create a clean transition from the inside to the outside of the pot. On taller forms, you can see that it's a little easier to glaze the inside. As you pour out the glaze, rotate your piece so that it completely coats the inside. This can be difficult at first, but just like with anything in ceramics, it just takes a little practice. For forms that have small openings, like Patrick's bottle, you can use a funnel to pour in glaze for a cleaner application. He then shakes it to ensure that the entire inside is coated before pouring it out. As you can see, Patrick leaves the outside of his pots unglazed. With wood firing, you are using wood as the fuel source. The ash created from burning the wood acts as a natural glaze for pots. Before you glaze, you always want to stir your glaze very well, though I've already stirred mine in this example. Since I have a small amount of glaze, I'm pouring it directly out of the bucket and into the cup. Since glaze dries so quickly, as a rule of thumb, about 3 seconds is the longest that you want glaze to be in your pot. When pouring out glaze, you want to hesitate as little as possible to prevent drips on the outside of your piece and to fully coat the entire inside surface, including the lip of your piece. If there are any drips, you can always wipe them off with a sponge. Personally, I usually leave the outside of my pots unglazed so that the natural ash from the wood fire can be fully appreciated.